the host of First Things First, live from New York. Okay, before we start anything, I took the train into work this morning, and I loved it, Nick. Loved it.
Yeah, that'll last a few days, and we'll be back to car service for Uncle Colin. I can't wait for your updates from the front of a rugged Midwestern city. Next week, you're going to be like, I ate a hot dog sold by a vendor off the street and paid cash. It's going to be the whole brave new world. Listen, you used to be a man of the people. Then a decade in Los Angeles softened you up. So I'm glad that Chicago, what you will learn is this. As a Midwestern kid myself, you now have the benefit of the single best time zone to be a sports fan.
Yes.
So where 10 a.m. football, 9 a.m. college football out west is a little too early. But 1 a.m. finishes out east a little too late. It makes more sense in the central time zone. You know when the NFL starts? Noon and 3, like it was built for the Midwest. It's great. 11 a.m. college football, you'll love that. The nightlife will be great. I'm very excited for you. As I told you, I'm going to come visit you. We'll go to Bavette's or one of those fancy Chicago steakhouses you're buying. It's going to be great. You're now closer. Can't wait to see you, buddy.
Okay, so I picked the Rockets to win. I thought depth, size, and I said, yes, I know all their best players are 21, 22. I get it. But the Warriors players, they're all old, and I don't know if Pods is ready. And I'm watching that game last night, and the Draymond technical, and the Jimmy Butler, and Kerr's coaching, and I'm like, I should have known. Doesn't it just come? Because if you look at the box score, Houston did enough to win. No question.
Yeah. Yep.
But in the end, I felt like I was watching a little bit of the Wiggins Warriors. It felt so Warriors to me. Who did you pick and why?
Yeah. I picked the same as you. I picked Rockets in 7 for a lot of the same reasons. I thought, listen, Steph has had 2 phenomenal games. Game 1, he was outstanding, even better than the box score. Game 3, with no Jimmy Butler, I thought was an all-time Steph and Steve Kerr performance. But the Rockets have held him in check in the other 2 games. And Jimmy Butler, missed a game. And there were a lot of reasons that you thought, or I thought, the Rockets could lean on him physical enough, and by Game 7, they're beat up. And listen, yesterday, if Şengün makes that shot, maybe you and I are looking smart. Now it's a best of 3 with the Rockets having home court. But to me, the story yesterday was about a Warrior you and I have talked about a lot on this show. It was the vintage, perfect, for good and for bad Draymond Green game. Because it was his 4th, and I say this with deep respect for who he is as a player, even though he has always kind of irritated me with some of the on and off court antics. But what you saw from Draymond Green, who yesterday hit 2 shots to open the game, then did not score another point, who had 5 fouls, 1 technical, 1 flagrant, and could have had 9 fouls, 3 technicals, and 2 flagrants. He was the most important player on the court. He was the connective tissue for the Warriors. He was doing all the vintage Draymond stuff. And on the outburn Şengün yesterday, when Draymond was out of the game, no Warrior could stop him. And when Draymond was in the game, he wanted nothing to do with the paint. And so when Draymond goes into the Hall of Fame as a first ballot guy, this game is a perfect example why. It was his 4th straight triple single. None of the stats are impressive. He's barking, he's yelling, he's irritating, he's almost fighting, and he is helping the Warriors win unlike any player other than Steph Curry in this era. And so, listen, Draymond is not a big fan of mine. I understand that. That's probably fair. But hats off to him for last night and for once again proving, as he said, he is a 16-game player, not an 82-game player, and no one was more valuable to the Warriors last night than Draymond Green.
So I think the Lakers are in big trouble for a lot of reasons, and people send messages. J.J. Redick sent a message to Rob Pelinka, which is fix the roster. But I say this, they didn't play again until like Wednesday. So I know JJ thought, I'm going to empty the tank. We're not playing until Wednesday. But come on. if LeBron was in year 12 and not 22, if Luka would have come into the season in shape, I thought it was a calculated risk you didn't necessarily need to take because Minnesota's deeper and Julius Randle's playing out of his mind finally in the playoffs. I didn't love the coaching decision. What did you think about it?
Yeah, you thought JJ doing something literally no coach in basketball history had done was maybe a mistake?
Yeah.
And listen, I think JJ's been excellent.
Yeah.
And I think he deserves credit. And I think there are a lot of fingerprints on this Lakers loss. I think that a smart point that was made by, I think, Silver Screen and Roll, one of the Lakers blogs, I apologize if I'm misattributing it, was that the original fingerprint on this loss was the front office's passivity before they got Luka Doncic in the last couple years of LeBron and Anthony Davis and not treating it like it was a championship roster that needed championship role players. And you saw the atrophy of that in this. Some of the fingerprints on this loss is the Lakers or JJ, I should say, it's not so much about LeBron and Luka playing the whole second half. There's a lot of playoff games where your two stars, even if one's a little overweight and the other's 70,000 minutes in at 40 years old, play the whole second half. It's that you didn't think you could get 1 minute from Gabe Vincent or Jackson Hayes or Jared Vanderbilt to where Austin Reeves and the other guys are more fresh. So there's that. It was the fact that LeBron, I think, made a calculated decision in that fourth quarter, which was, I only have this much energy left, and because we have Luka Doncic, I'm saving it for the defensive end where you saw some vintage, all-time LeBron defensive stops at the end of that game. Luka will be able to take care of the offense, and he couldn't. LeBron himself, a minute left, ball in his hands, up 2, takes a tough 3 instead of, using whatever energy he had to get to the basket. All of that conspired to put a Lakers team that has no business being down 3-1. And Colin, do I think they have a chance to win this series? I do. But do I think it actually really matters at this point? I don't. And that's for 2 reasons. One is because this thing, their best case scenario is it goes 7. What that means, Colin, is starting tomorrow until they are eliminated, they are every other day the rest of the playoffs until the finals if you were to get there. But it is literally on the Lakers' schedule in the month of May, it is 15 games in 30 days if they were to get that opportunity. You see they don't have the depth of the roster to handle that. They needed this series to be quick. They needed the LeBron 38-point masterpiece on Friday to be enough, and they needed that game, a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter on Sunday to be enough. Neither was, and now they're up against it, and even if they get through it, all that means is they're going to be dog-tired going into round 2.
I want to talk Shedeur Sanders because it really got people worked up, and I've most of my contacts are in the NFL, so most of my people just said, listen, Dion is popular. He's worked at major networks. Peter Schrager mentioned this as well. Nobody wanted to tell Dion the truth, like your son's not interviewing well, and maybe he's not as good as you think, whatever. Dan Marino slid. Aaron Rodgers slid. Johnny Manziel, half the teams took him off their board. I do think there was a lack of self-awareness, butchering the Giants. I mean, the Giants were willing to give up 2 firsts to get Cam Ward and 3 picks for Jackson Dart. They wanted a quarterback, and yet Shedeur, by the way, it came out after the fact, he bombed the interview. So some of it was there's a scarcity of teams that need it, and there weren't very many good quarterbacks after Cam Ward. There's been a lot of comparisons to a lot of people. I think it's just people drop in the draft, and I do think quarterbacks, me on Baker Mayfield, quarterbacks are judged differently. If a wide receiver had a draft room that said legendary, I wouldn't care. But a quarterback But it felt some of it felt cringy, and maybe that's it.
So there's so much here. The point you were making about the difference in personalities, quarterback, wide receiver, or let's take Abdul Carter. Like Abdul Carter, got in some trouble off the field. There's questions about his motor. The moment he gets drafted, he's like, "Hey, LT, come off that 56, buddy." And everyone's like, "Can he get me 12 sacks a year?" He can. He's an edge rusher. Who cares? And the fact of the matter is this. I think this was a multi-front failure. I think it was a failure, if I'm being honest, by a lot of the NFL insiders in not having anywhere close to their finger on the pulse of what clearly the majority of the league thought of Shedeur. I think it was, and I think Deion has been the type of father that I think a lot of fathers, myself included, aspire to be, where you can be simultaneously friends with your kid while a hardcore disciplinarian, while involved in their lives. I think he's been a great dad. I think this was his first miss where he clearly made Shedeur believe, because why wouldn't I trust Deion, that I am viewed as a blue chipper. And a blue chipper can do the things Shedeur did. Shedeur, to me, conducted the draft process as if he knew for certain.
Yes.
If I'm there at 21, Pittsburgh is taking me. And therefore, he appeared, from the reporting, to almost intentionally turn off certain teams because he wasn't worried about the money to go along with draft slot. So he's like, no, I'd rather go to Pittsburgh than, say, New Orleans or wherever else. And he was just flatly wrong. That no team viewed him as a first-round pick. No team viewed him as a clear-cut future starter. And then all of a sudden, you find out, oh, I was interviewing for the wrong job.
Yeah.
They were interviewing me to be a backup. That's a very different job. Like, if I were to come to you, Colin, it's a different job if it's like, hey, we're interviewing someone who, when Colin's off, to fill in, or we're interviewing someone who's going to produce the show. Like, I need to know what job I'm interviewing for. The backup quarterback job is much more about personality, study habits, disposition. Starting quarterback job is, how pretty is that throw? And right. Shedeur thought that was going to carry him. It was a misjudgment by him, and I think this is it's a tough lesson. Now, with that said, if he is anywhere close to the player he and the people around him clearly think he is, he should win that job this year. I don't know that he is that player, but it's a Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel quarterback room. If the league was wrong and he's right, he's a first-round talent, he's the only first-round talent in that room.
Okay, weirdest story that nobody knows how to cover is Belichick and Jordan Hudson. And I said this. One of my rules on this show, one of the rules on my show, it's not about being right, it's about getting it right. And I thought it was sort of icky and cringy. And then I watched the CBS interview, and I'm like, oh, no, that's essential. Every CEO, senator, college coach in his 70s has handlers. We're just not comfortable with them being young girlfriends. But she is now, Bill didn't need this in the pros. In college, Mike Lombardi and Bill have no interest in the SID, the AD, the college nonsense. They don't have a bridge. And when she's barking at CBS, I'm like, that's what SIDs do. I've seen PR people do this with politicians. Bill doesn't want to be a college coach. He's a college coach because the way it worked out. And it's mutually beneficial. It's a little cringy for people. But that CBS interview, I'm like, oh, I've seen that 10 times. It could be the Clintons. Yeah. It could be a CEO. It could be Bill Belichick.
Yes, of course you've seen it 10 times. The problem is when you're envisioning that college coach and the SID, 7 days prior, was that college coach laying prone on the beach with the SID laying on his feet doing the Titanic pose. Like in these instances where you're like, it's a politician and their aide, was 3 weeks prior, was the politician fishing the aide out of the sea as a mermaid for the Instagram following.
Well, no.
Like that, to me, the context of that is what informs this. If it was just, hey, listen, old soul, young heart, to each their own, and she's helpful where he's lacking, which is media stuff or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So be it. It does not feel like that to me. And I am not one typically to comment on someone's personal life. However, if they make it their public life and a big part of their public persona, then I think it is fair if it's relevant. And what I do think is relevant here, and what is honestly most interesting to me, because I don't care that much about North Carolina Tar Heel football with respect to Mitch Trubisky and Lawrence Taylor. What is interesting to me is this one of the reasons the NFL was not interested in Bill Belichick? Yeah. Was one of the reasons Bill did not get interviews was because people in NFL front offices already knew, hey, guys, so he's got a new girlfriend. She was born in the 2000s, and she's super involved, and Bill seems okay with it. Like that, to me, when we're talking, like we can't do and I'm not saying you're doing this, but we as a media can't say, hey, one of the reasons Shedeur fell in the draft was when you are the quarterback of a team, optics, disposition, how you carry yourself matters, and it turned off NFL owners, and not say a similar turning off of NFL owners might have happened with Bill and his, loving girlfriend.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think all that stuff. I mean, listen, I said this, going back to Shedeur, I said this either on a podcast or on the show. I said the NFL is very protective of its culture. It's not going to go baseball and give you a 10-year deal, and it's not going to tolerate load management. It is a front office coach sport. Is that if Sean McVay is done with you, Von Miller, Cooper Kupp, bye-bye. And that's the way it worked. Jalen Ramsey, nice knowing you. And I do think on the Shedeur front and the Bill front, you make a really interesting point that I hadn't thought about. They are hyper protective that we're not letting coaches and we're not letting quarterbacks, especially young ones, run the league. We run the league. It's an old boys club. And I think, to your point, it could be Shedeur, it could be Johnny Manziel, it could be Bill Belichick. It's like, slow down. And that's a pretty good point.
Again, unless you are, there is always this, oh, wait, but we think you're the best in the world. Like Cam Newton, for whatever, his failings or successes as a pro, he did win an MVP, go to a Super Bowl. Some people still think he underachieved, whatever it is. He was as brash and confident and braggadocious as you got. Tells Peter King, I want to be an icon and an entertainer, and we still remember it, but we also know this. He was pick 1-1 with a bullet because it's like, I don't know, did you see last year at Auburn? Holy moly, that guy's unbelievable. Yeah. And if this were Belichick coming off the last Brady Super Bowl where they win 13-3, shutting down Sean McVay's Rams, Todd Gurley-led offense, then I think people would be like, all right, man, it's a weird thing we're going to have to deal with, but we'll deal with it. But as the moment you're not, whether it's quarterback, coach, any of these guys, a gotta-have-it guy, then you better fall in line. And that maybe it shouldn't be that way, but it pretty clearly is that way.
Yeah. Nick Wright, well, can't wait to get on the old train
Enjoy the
tomorrow.
L train, buddy. I cannot wait until the first person walks up to you and does this one. You're Colin Cowherd, yeah? Who do you think's going to win? And before you can even answer, they then give you their 7-minute answer of their own question, which is why they asked you the question. You're going to love it. Oh, my goodness. Get ready to take some pictures. See you later, buddy.
All right, Nick Wright.